I never thought a simple bet would change my entire life. But when my boss challenged me to that swim race, I had no idea I'd end up risking everything I'd worked for, and gaining something I never knew I needed. If you've ever felt like life has backed you into a corner, this story might just give you the courage to take that impossible leap. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more incredible journeys of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. The chlorine stung Mark Davidson's eyes as he stared down at the Olympic-sized pool. His reflection wavered back at him, a tired 38-year-old man with worry lines etched deep around his eyes. The company's annual retreat was supposed to be relaxing, but nothing about this moment felt peaceful. So, Davidson, what do you say? One race, end to end. If you win, I'll approve that promotion you've been gunning for. Richard Keller, CEO of Pinnacle Investments, stood beside him with that trademark smirk that made Mark's stomach turn. But if I win, you take my place at the Tokyo conference next month. Mark's heart sank. The Tokyo conference. 2 weeks away from home. 2 weeks away from Emma. I can't leave for that long, sir. My daughter, your daughter this, your daughter that. Richard waved his hand dismissively. You've used that excuse for 5 years now. Time to decide what matters more, your career or playing Mr. Mom. The words stung worse than the chlorine. Since losing his wife to cancer when Emma was just 3, Mark had built his entire world around his daughter. Now 8, Emma was everything to him. The promotion would mean better hours, better pay, and most importantly, more time with her. But the risk, what if we modify the terms? Mark heard himself say, surprising even himself with his boldness. If I win, I get the promotion. If you win, I'll go to Tokyo, but I bring my daughter with me. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Bringing a child to an executive conference? That's completely against company policy. That's my condition, Mark said firmly. Otherwise, no bet. A small crowd of co-workers had gathered, watching the exchange with interest. Richard glanced around, clearly not wanting to lose face. Fine, he finally said. But when I win, you keep that kid out of the way during meetings. Deal? Mark nodded, his throat dry. Deal. The starting whistle pierced the air. Mark dove into the cold water, his body remembering competitive swimming from his college days. Richard was 15 years older but surprisingly strong, pulling ahead in the first few strokes. As Mark's arms cut through the water, his mind raced faster than his body. Images of Emma flashed before him, her first day of school, teaching her to ride a bike, reading bedtime stories. He'd promised her he'd never leave her behind. Not after her mother died. Halfway down the pool, Mark's lungs burned. Richard was still ahead, but slowing. Mark thought of the promotion, of the better life it would mean for Emma. With a surge of determination, he pushed harder, his muscles screaming in protest. 3/4 of the way, they were neck and neck. Mark could hear his co-workers cheering, their voices muffled by the water rushing past his ears. In the final stretch, he gave everything he had left, reaching for the wall with outstretched fingers that he touched first, by less than a second. Gasping for air, Mark pulled himself from the pool to the sound of applause. Richard emerged moments later, his face a mask of disbelief. Congratulations, Richard said stiffly, extending a dripping hand. The promotion is yours. Relief flooded through Mark, stronger than the exhaustion. He wouldn't have to leave Emma. He wouldn't have to break his promise, but as he watched Richard storm away, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that his victory might come with consequences he hadn't anticipated. Daddy, you won. Emma squealed that evening when Mark called to tell her the news. Her excitement made his heart swell. I did, sweetheart. And guess what? I'll be home for dinner every night now. No more late meetings. Promise? Promise. After hanging up, Mark stared at the ceiling of his hotel room. Tomorrow they'd return to the city, and he'd start his new position as senior investment director. Everything was falling into place. Or so he thought. Monday morning arrived with a thunderstorm that matched the atmosphere in the office. Mark stepped off the elevator to find Richard waiting for him, that same smirk back on his face. "Davidson. My office. Now." Mark followed, dread pooling in his stomach. Inside the expansive corner office, Richard didn't bother sitting down. "The board reviewed your promotion package this morning," he said without preamble. "They've decided to put it on hold." "What? Why?" Mark struggled to keep his voice level. "We had a deal. Deals change. The Tokyo conference has been expanded. We need all senior staff there for 3 weeks, not 2. With your situation, you're clearly not the right fit." 3 weeks. Mark felt the floor shift beneath him. There was no way he could leave Emma for that long. "This is because I beat you, isn't it?" Mark said quietly. Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. "This is business, Davidson. Nothing personal. You can either commit to Tokyo, or stay in your current position. Your choice." Mark walked out of the office in a daze. 5 years of sacrifice, of balancing single parenthood with a demanding career, all for nothing. He'd played by the rules, exceeded every target, and still, it wasn't enough. In the bathroom, he splashed cold water on his face and stared at his reflection. The man looking back at him seemed different somehow, angrier, more determined. "This isn't over," he whispered to himself. That evening, as Mark helped Emma with her homework, his phone buzzed with a text from Diane, his neighbor and Emma's occasional babysitter. "Saw the job posting. What's going on?" Mark frowned, opening his laptop to check. There it was, his position, advertised as available immediately. They weren't just denying him the promotion, they were planning to replace him entirely. After tucking Emma into bed, Mark sat at his kitchen table with a legal pad, weighing his options. He could fight this, file a complaint, maybe even sue. But legal battles took time and money, neither of which he had in abundance. Or he could walk away. Start fresh somewhere else. But in this economy, with a child to support. His thoughts were interrupted by Emma's voice from the doorway. "Daddy? Are you sad?" Mark looked up, forcing a smile. "No, sweetheart. Just thinking." Emma padded over in her pajamas, climbing onto his lap. "Is it about work? You look like when you have work problems." Mark hugged her close, amazed at how perceptive she was. "Yes, it's about work. But don't worry. I'll figure it out." "You always do," she said with complete confidence, resting her head against his chest. In that moment, something shifted inside Mark. Emma believed in him without question. Maybe it was time he started believing in himself too. The next morning, Mark arrived at the office early. Instead of going to his desk, he headed straight for the executive floor. Not to Richard's office, but to someone who might actually listen, Catherine Wells, the company's founder and chairwoman. Catherine's assistant tried to stop him, but Mark was past caring about protocol. "I need 5 minutes," he said firmly. "It's about Richard Keller and the Tokyo conference." To his surprise, Catherine waved him in. At 72, she was still sharp as a tack, with keen eyes that seemed to see right through him. "Mr. Davidson. What's so urgent that you're bypassing all proper channels?" Mark took a deep breath and told her everything, the bet, the broken promise, the threatened termination. As he spoke, Catherine's expression remained neutral, but her fingers tapped rhythmically on her desk. "And why should I intervene in what appears to be a management decision?" she asked when he finished. "Because it's not about management. It's about Richard punishing me for winning a bet he proposed. And because I'm good at my job. My client retention rate is the highest in the department." Catherine studied him for a long moment. "You have a daughter, correct? A young one?" "Emma. She's 8. And no other family to help?" Mark shook his head. My parents are in Arizona. My wife's family never approved of our marriage. Catherine nodded slowly, then reached for her phone. Richard, my office. Immediately. She hung up without waiting for a response. Wait outside, please, she told Mark. 10 minutes later, Richard emerged from Catherine's office, his face ashen. He walked past Mark without a word, disappearing into the elevator. Mr. Davidson, Catherine called. Come back in. Inside, Catherine was standing by the window, looking out at the city below. Richard has been making some concerning decisions lately, she said without turning around. This isn't the first complaint I've received. Mark waited, hardly daring to breathe. The Tokyo conference is important, she continued. But so is family. I built this company while raising 3 children of my own. I never would have succeeded without flexibility. She turned to face him. You'll get your promotion, Mr. Davidson. And we're implementing a new remote work policy for the Tokyo conference. You'll attend the key meetings virtually, with 1 week of in-person attendance. We'll arrange for your daughter to accompany you for that week, all expenses paid. Mark stared at her, speechless. Don't look so surprised, Catherine said with a small smile. Good talent is hard to find. Decent human beings even more so. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Mark's promotion came with a corner office and a substantial raise. Richard was reassigned to the company's smallest branch office in North Dakota. And Emma was ecstatic about her upcoming business trip to Tokyo. The night before their flight, as Mark packed their suitcases, Emma sat cross-legged on his bed, watching him. Daddy? Are you happy now? Mark paused, a folded shirt in his hands. Yes, sweetheart. I am. Because you won the bet? He sat beside her, pulling her close. No. Because I remembered what's really important. Sometimes winning isn't about beating someone else. It's about standing up for what matters most. Emma nodded solemnly. Like family. Exactly like family. As they boarded the plane the next day, Mark couldn't help but think about how close he'd come to giving up. One bet, one moment of courage, had changed everything. The forbidden demand, bringing his daughter to a business conference, had seemed impossible at the time. But sometimes, the most impossible demands led to the most unexpected blessings. In Tokyo, Emma charmed everyone she met. The Japanese executives were delighted by her attempts at their language, and several brought their own children to meet her. What Richard had seen as a liability, others recognized as a reminder of why they worked so hard in the first place. On their last night in Japan, Mark and Emma stood on the hotel balcony, looking out at the glittering cityscape. Can we do this again sometime? Emma asked, her small hand in his. Mark smiled down at her. I think we can arrange that. As they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, Mark realized that sometimes, the greatest victories weren't won in boardrooms or swimming pools. They were won in the quiet moments, in the promises kept, in the courage to demand what truly mattered. And that was a bet worth taking every time. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage, family, and the choices that define us. Remember, sometimes the most forbidden demands lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Share your own story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you stood up for what matters most in your life.